This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 372 for the week of January 18th, 2015. What up, hey-os? Welcome back to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site.
Kanzenshuu.
Right, we cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit, the entertaining. It is wonderful to be back. I don't think we had a show at all in December. That's rare for us, but we are back here to kick off the new year. My name is Mike, VegettoEX, joining me across the very large body of water, all the way from Japan, Julian.
Yes, Saya Jedi.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. Sunday night, work tomorrow. Finally glad to get back on doing the podcast thing.
And that's right. I guess in Japan you wouldn't have Martin Luther King Day off.
No, unfortunately. But it's no classes because the third-year students are getting ready to have their tests. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's been a while for us. So what we're going to do this episode, the last episode of any year or the first episode of a year, somewhere around there, what we'd like to do is do a recap of some of the biggest stories from the last calendar year. And we check in on any predictions we made that last year, see how we did, see how terrible we are with them. And then we make new predictions. And that is what we got for you this episode. I know in many years past, in some of the slower years, what we would do is actually go month by month and highlight some of the biggest stories, but Dragon Ball, you just start chuckling. Dragon Ball has been so busy these last few years that I'm not entirely sure what we've done every episode for the last couple of years, but I know somewhat recently, and what we'll be doing this episode is just covering some of the overall biggest stories of the year. I did put up what the top 5 news stories were in terms of Kanzenshuu traffic and social media conversations and all that stuff, so we'll talk about those 5, and then Julian, you and I will maybe pick 1 or 2 others that we think were important, maybe didn't get the largest amount of traffic, but were still significant in the overall year of Dragon Ball for 2014. Then we'll talk predictions. We'll make new predictions. We got a lot of your predictions from Twitter last night. I got predictions from Heath, actually. And Jake said, well, I don't really make predictions, so he's keeping it safe. So Julian, you and I will make our own. We'll check in on everyone. I was actually talking with Mary this morning. She's got 1 or 2 things that I will toss in when relevant as well. Before we get to all that, we do have some news catch up to do. We would love to talk with you about the new movie. Check in since the last time we talked. Let's do a news recap. Julian, since the last time we talked here on the show, I think we're pretty much going to pick up with the trailer and go onward from there. And in case you couldn't guess, that teaser was the biggest story of 2014. Yes. I'm not entirely surprised. So why don't we start at the beginning a little bit, do that quick review of what this actually is, and then we'll talk about the newest of news. Julian, Fukatsu no F.
Yes, Fukatsu no F.
And I do have to ask, how would you translate the title?
Well, I'd suppose the revival of F resurrected, F reborn.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on. So it's a new movie coming this year. Is it coming? I already forgot the release date. I can't believe I'm doing this. Is it April?
April 18th.
Thank you. Bad Ops is March 30th. I have that burned into my memory, but I haven't quite gotten to the revival of F release date yet. So that's coming, as opposed to Battle of Gods, which was an original concept by Toei and had a separate scriptwriter, all that kind of jazz. And Toriyama came to it later, and he threw out pretty much everything and did a lot of it himself. This time it is coming straight from Toriyama from the get-go. He is credited not only as the character designer, but as the writer, I guess you would say. Is it scenario that he's credited with?
Well, the scenario or the screenplay, if you want to be fancy.
So that's coming straight from him. The director this time, very interesting choice, Tadayoshi Yamamura, who we've had as an animator, animation supervisor, animation director in the past. He's actually directing the movie.
And he has no prior directorial experience.
Odd/interesting choice, to be sure. And then in terms of other stuff we knew at this point, just Frieza's coming back. We have Taguma and Sorbet, some remnants of Frieza's army, kind of phrase we've heard before. And the Jump Super Anime Tour special, Dragon Ball Online as well. Coming back, we have the worst wish in history. This is truly despair that we have upon us. And I think that mostly catches us up to where we are with our first look. The biggest story story of the year, which we'll get to shortly, was the tease for it on Mezamashi TV. And then we did get the actual trailer that they were teasing. So we're going to pick up there. Now, Julian, there was a slight change in Frieza's wording. We got a quote in character from Frieza before, and that quote was exactly the same, except for one word when it came to be actually spoken aloud in the trailer. What was the difference there?
Yes. So in the V-Jump preview that they had, it said, "Omise shimashou, watashi no saranaru henshin wo," which means, allow me to show you my further transformation. But then when we get to the trailer, he actually says, "Omise shimashou, watashi no saranaru shinka wo," which means my further evolution or progression.
Gotcha. So slight change in wording there. And I think as we've come to find out, the recording for the trailer isn't even necessarily a recording for the movie itself. So that could be changed back maybe even in the final film. We had a lot of that with Battle of Gods as well. We had things that were spoken in the preview trailer that weren't in the theatrical cut and then were in the extended cut. And then we had a line, was it Piccolo? Someone said the big thing that people argue about destroying, that wasn't in anything again after that anyway.
Yes, creating worries about the fate of the Earth, and then Piccolo tells him that the whole galaxy is in danger.
Right, which
like that.
wasn't in the
not
movie
in the movie.
itself.
Yeah.
So we may have a case like that here where who knows how much of this dialogue will make its way to the final film, but did want to toss that out. Along with a lot of this stuff, we did get some more cast confirmations. I think the most significant one here for us and listeners and readers is that Norihito Sumitomo is coming back for musical composition duties. He debuted in Battle of Gods for the musical score there, and then moved over to doing the Majin Buu arc of Dragon Ball Kai. So we do have Sumitomo back for music, and I think I've made my thoughts on Sumitomo quite clear since Battle of Gods and into the Buu arc, which I still have not seen a single minute of, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. Dragon Ball fan number one right here. I just leave it to Heath. So Julian, let's talk about the trailer itself, because this was the biggest thing. We got actual animation here. What were your initial thoughts having seen the new trailer for the new movie?
It was okay.
I'm very excited here.
It got across the point, although I felt like the animation itself was not stunning. I've been worked up for the movie already, so it was nice seeing Vegeta and Goku in those new uniforms in action, and a little glimpse of Beerus, who appeared to be doing something like sneezing and causing a bit of destruction, perhaps.
Right.
Without context, so we don't really know. So there's intriguing bits, there's Kame-Sennin fighting, which is always interesting. But yeah, I think everything is sort of from here on out sort of thing. But the most curious thing to me was that Frieza is depicted in his first form.
Yeah.
In a couple of scenes. What does that mean?
Is he coming back in that first form and then just gonna... Yeah, I'm really curious. Will he transform straight to the final form that we know, or are we gonna get a little in-between transformation sequence again? I'm looking forward to whatever they do there.
Yes, Kuririn will have a moment when the horns come out.
Right, just run away. Well, that's a great transition. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about the trailer just yet, so we'll hold tight for more animation previews. But you mentioned the character there. We have new designs for two characters. Who we got? First off, were you on Team Gohan or were you on Team Yamcha?
I thought it was Yamcha at first.
I would too, yeah.
But it turns out that it's actually Gohan, who is wearing a tracksuit, a green tracksuit, because, according to reports, he can't find his actual Dolgi. He's wearing a tracksuit and sneakers. Yeah, but, he can still fight. The other people argue about is the fact that he's wearing glasses and his hairstyle is different, but we're assuming that it's a couple of years after the last movie. We don't have an official confirmation of the time frame, but he's got a young daughter, doesn't always have the time to do proper grooming in the morning.
You speak from experience?
Not always if he's not going to work that day, maybe not any particular motivation to put on regular clothes,
right,
or necessarily shave even. So, and
if we're talking scholar here, maybe he's got a little working from home going on, or just heading into the office for a little bit. We don't know. Leave him alone. Leave Gohan alone. All right. Who's the other character?
All right. So the other one is Kuririn, who in the off time between Battle of Gods and the end of the series has not only shaved his head but joined the police. We don't know exactly where officially, but the badge says SCPD, which lends the idea that perhaps it's Satan City Police Department.
Right. And why would that not be South City?
Because South City in Japanese is Minami no Miyako, which would be MM.
That being said, we've seen plenty of English correlations, but I don't think we've ever seen South City written in our alphabet, have we?
I don't think so, but we did see East City written as HM or Higashi no Miyako.
Okay, so there you go.
Galactic Patrolman. So
Gotcha.
Coming from Toriyama, he'll probably follow the same pattern.
Right, and Jaco is recent enough that, all right, that follows through quite well.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not something city in Japanese. It's no Miyako, which is metropolis or capital or city.
I know Jake was actually talking about that with Jaco recently, where between the different translators in Dragon Ball and now in Jaco, we've had city, metropolis, capital written different ways. And I think he made a good point that, especially going into Jaco, if you didn't know what Jaco was, would you necessarily draw those correlations with all the different ways it's been translated?
Satan City is unambiguously Satan City because it's written in English even in the manga. So
that's right.
That's what we're thinking, but we don't have any official confirmation yet. But anyway, he gets to ride around on an air scooter, which looks kind of like an old Honda Motocompo, but turned sideways. But maybe you don't know what one of those is.
No clue.
No, it was sold alongside the original Honda City, and Toriyama drew it a few times in Dr. Slump. Anyway.
That's right. You did a massive amount of research into Toriyama's technological vehicular drawings lately.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Let's move on to music, something that I think we were all predicting and hoping for because it just made sense from a pay it forward kind of respect. And that's Maximum the Hormones' song F will be used as a battle song during the movie. So that's very exciting to hear. That in turn inspired Toriyama to name the movie and possibly story the movie the way it is. So to see them get their due paid is nice. Have it included.
Yes, they're excited. And the funny thing is, and actually I'm translating this at the moment, is that they had their 2013 album, which is called Yoshu Fukushu, which includes the 2008 single songs on there. And there's a little interview part where the couple of members of the band are talking with representatives of the record label. And offhand, they mention the thing where Toriyama came to their concert, and that wouldn't it be weird if it eventually gets used somewhere, like officially? Nice. And I think it's Ryo who says, no, there's no way that's going to happen.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, at this point, F is kind of an old song, and to have it resurface again, that's really great for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Toriyama's 60 years old this year, so...
Yeah, what does he care about current? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost 30, and I have no idea what the popular songs are.
You're so young and cute. I love it. All right, moving on. Speaking of young and cute, in addition to Maximum the Hormone, who is this group? I mean, I do kind of know them.
They're an idol group. They follow in the footsteps of other things like Majinga Z and Dragon Ball Z, and that they're Momoyo Clover Z. And that apparently the naming is maybe a sidelong reference to the series, but also other things that carry the Z, like the aforementioned Giant Robot show and what have you. But they're an idol group. They're not really that knowledgeable on idol groups, but from what I understand, they're one of the more silly type things where they enjoy just having fun and getting people into the concert rather than being quite so creepily exploitative. Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do as an idol group to break the mold of being an idol group, but I suppose this is as much as you can do. So
right.
So cool. Well, they're contributing a song, and that's really all we know right now is that, they're going to have a song in the movie.
They're going to have a song. They'll surprise us all, and it's just going to be Moon Pride.
They'll just play that instead. Yeah. If you don't know, they most recently contributed the opening theme to Sailor Moon Crystal, Moon Pride, which I know I was talking about recently in a response somewhere, was actually written, composed. I want to assume it's pronounced Revo, R-E-V-O, who is a well-known composer, performer over in Japan. I'm very confused. I don't know if the band is Linked Horizon or Sound Horizon, or if that refers to only something when produced in conjunction with something else. Regardless, he composed the score for Bravely Default on 3DS, and it's amazing. So I'm kind of hoping that he gets re-involved with the group here to do something for the show. And then, who's the Megadeth guitarist that they work with often?
Oh, what's his name?
Or have worked with.
It's not Mustaine. It's the other guy. Marty Friedman.
Marty Friedman. There we go. Yeah, they've worked with him. So, yay. Hopefully we get some cool guitar work.
Yes.
We don't know anything. All right. That pretty much brings us to today. And at this point, we just know there's a preview screening that you can enter in next month's V-Jump issue, or I guess it's coming out soon. So it's no longer next month. It's a couple days.
Yes. So this month's V-Jump issue, which is the March issue, because it's always post-dated by 2 months, will have information about preview screenings. We're not sure if they will have a date, but they will have opportunities for you to enter for a chance to attend one. We know this because of the preview on the website for VJump, basically.
Then in addition to that, the last bit that's being announced is that Toyotaro of Dragon Ball Heroes Victory Mission fame and of Toyble's Dragon Ball AF, 99.99999% sure there, is going to be, don't tell anyone, no one knows. He will be doing a 3-part manga adaptation / preview / something for Revival of F. And Julian, that doesn't start in this particular coming issue, but it's announced in this issue to then start the following issue, right?
Yes, it's going to start in the April issue, which is coming out in February, and altogether is supposedly supposed to cover just the first part, or Joban is what they say in the ad.
Gotcha.
So probably going to be a bit like the SD Battle of Gods thing, but maybe a bit more detailed and maybe we'll say faithful instead of silly. And the movie was pretty silly too.
Yeah, we don't know.
Anyway.
No, I'm sorry, I forget who was asking about it on our forum, but they were like, isn't this gonna spoil the movie? And so I pointed back to Oishi's, I think it was about 12 pages, that Battle of Gods SD comic that she did. And it did come out before the movie, but it covered pretty much everything that we already knew about the movie. And we even had some, I think, preview clips from the movie ahead of its theatrical debut. So it was the kind of thing where we're seeing what we know and how much can it spoil. I mean, if you're really into it, like I'm assuming most people are who are reading and digesting it, it's just kind of reinforcing what you already know, getting you hyped for it. And since it's going to run 3 issues, by the time the 3rd chapter comes out, I think the movie will be out by that point. So that's how that schedule's working.
Yep.
Alrighty, I think that catches us up on Revival of F news. Good to catch up there. You can keep up with everything on the website. We have a tag set up, DBZ Movie 2015. You see any story, click the tag. You can browse through all the news archive so you can stay up to date that way. Julian, let's talk about some of the top stories of 2014. So I guess we'll work with most popular backward as opposed to how on the site I posted 54321. We already talked about it, and that was the Mezamashi TV preview of the teaser / trailer, which then came in full, I think just a day or so later. But that was far and away the biggest story of the year, of the whole year. In total numbers, posted on December 4th, and it was not even a contest. Number 2 was not even close. This was the biggest thing of the year.
Wow. I mean, I enjoyed seeing the new trailer, but that's some incredible numbers. I guess everybody's just really chomping at the bit for whatever they can get.
Yeah, it's the first actual look at animation. So even though it was a teaser for the trailer that then came shortly thereafter, the trailer itself didn't crack the top 5. It was the teaser from Mezamashi TV that blew everyone away. I mean, that just gets everyone coming out of the woodwork to see the new animation. So that was clearly it. So then some other stuff. I mean, most of these are just updates about the movie. The second story was Toei opening the website, and that's when we started getting some information about like who's in it and some of those character designs.
We got a hint about the staff and the cast.
Right. Worst wish in history, beginning of despair, that kind of stuff on there. So that got people going.
So, but you know, especially early on when there's little information, people will take whatever they can get. And that was a big boost, I think, for some people.
Yeah, it definitely was.
What is the worst wish? Wait, Goku's got an evil smirk on that first flyer. Maybe it means...
Stop. Don't be that guy. I know you're just impersonating that guy, but don't be that guy.
Yes, there were some interesting rumors that flew about and were reported as fact over that time, weren't there?
All right, Julian, moving on. The number 3 story was the confirmation, finally, that, yes, the boot arc is real. It's coming back, and it's coming on TV in April. And it did.
Gotta tell you, probably the worst kept secret in Dragon Ball history.
Definitely.
Probably the second worst kept secret is that Funimation already has it.
Well, yeah, at this point. I think 3rd on the list of worst kept secrets is probably new voice actor for Frieza in the Funimation dub, or some of the other bad secrets that we've had. I think those are kind of the top 3. All right, anyway, so the announcement of its return. I mean, Kai has just been a debacle beginning to end. I mean, the boot arc coming 5 years years after it started in Japan, after an enormous break. It's kind of unprecedented in all ways.
Yes, it's so bizarre. And this time we've got a new composer who's clearly didn't have the same budget or resources for the score of Battle of Gods, which he also did.
Banging things out on that same keyboard that a certain other replacement composer was working from.
Oh boy. Yeah, I tell you what. We've got in-house restoration by Toei, which seems to have the same color calibration problems as the Dragon Box.
If not worse.
Yeah, well, worse actually, because they're taking the film masters, which had issues of their own, which they put out as is, which is, I suppose, admirable in a certain way, and mucked about with the colors until they got something completely different, also wrong. Oh, and it's in 16:9 only.
Let no one say we don't criticize the Japanese releases. Let no one say. All right, let's leave it alone because it's a disaster. The number 4 story was V-Jump actually unveiling the new movie in development. Of course, that's going to be a huge story, and indeed it was. And I think part of the story here was, it was also mentioned in things like Weekly Jump and Psycho Jump, but the way the release cycles are working and the way that Psycho Jump has kind of turned into, we don't even know what's going on. And we'll hit that up with some prediction stuff. But V-Jump is the biggest promotional vehicle for Dragon Ball right now.
Yes, and that goes back to the days of when it first started back in the early 90s. It was its whole point. It's a multimedia promotional magazine. It's not purely a video game magazine. It covers a variety of subjects, and the idea is to cross-pollinate and get people hyped to buy stuff. That was all Torishima's idea, Toriyama's first editor. Even back in the 90s, once V-Jump was a thing, starting in 1993 when it went monthly, most of the animation-related stuff went over to V-Jump. So you didn't have quite as in-depth movie preview type stuff in Weekly Jump proper. So this carrying on that role.
And we see these days Weekly Jump, whenever the next issue or two comes out, they usually do a condensed 1-page review of some of the most recent information. We see that all the time with movie and game news over in Weekly Jump. And hey, speaking of games, cracking in the top 5 here, and I thought it was an interesting choice for any of this stuff to get in there, but Dragon Ball Xenoverse did make the top 5 stories of the year, and that's with Future Warrior screenshots from Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Wasn't even necessarily a big story about the game. It was just a better look at the Future Warrior, and we got Super Saiyan transformation shots and that kind of stuff here. I think that's what was really throwing people. I don't know. I'm looking for an analogy. I can't really come up with something right now.
It's just, I don't know. Who is this mysterious character who can go Super Saiyan, who wears a scouter?
You just said Saiyan, and you're in Japan, and you're Julian. I'm shocked.
Sorry, I'm imitating.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And who wears a Capsule Corporation outfit and who has Piccolo's cape. The number one self-insert
I know
Mary Sue character in everybody's Dragon Ball fanfic.
I can't believe there was anyone who honestly didn't figure out ahead of time that it was a created character. Like, how could you not tell? It was so obvious. There are people like, oh, maybe it's someone from the future timeline. It is, but clearly, come on. It's all the worst character designs thrown together into a nothing person.
It's the character that you would make if you're 12 years old.
Yeah, and we all did.
The best of every other character.
Except I wasn't 12 when I got into the series. I was 16, but I was probably, and I can't draw, so I was drawing stick figures. Like, this is a cape. All right, Julian, those were the top 5 stories in terms of traffic and social media conversations and shares and all that kind of stuff, calculated and thrown together on Kanzenshuu in particular. Of course, other sites probably had different kinds of traffic. I know Anime News Network put up their top stories of the year, and in terms of Dragon Ball, it was the same kind of thing that you saw up there in terms of the types of stories. So Dragon Ball is a huge thing. Julian, were there any other stories from the year that you thought were pretty significant that didn't necessarily crack the top 5 or maybe even the top 10, but were really huge and really important?
To me, well, I would say probably, for example, the 12 Boo Mysteries thing from Psycho Jump earlier in the year.
Yeah, I actually mentioned this in the update because it's half news, half content, and actually I think would have been the number 6 story there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Toriyama throws out random stuff. It's okay, sure. How about this? And it's funny because there's some really interesting stuff in there that completely makes sense, and there's some other stuff in there that completely contradicts the things that he said before.
Yeah, what was some of the big stuff from this particular, and I guess we should say 12 Boo mysteries, that's a pun there, instead of, it involves Boo era stuff, but 12 Boo is just our word 12.
So there's some stuff about Super Saiyan and how Goku probably won't use the higher levels of it from now on.
Sure.
There's also some things about the origins of Boo.
Right.
And random stuff like the spell that Bobby D used to unseal him or something like that. There's also the history of Mr. Satan and how he came to be the world champion, and also the one that people argue over because it completely contradicts previous explanations is the thing about the Kaioshin.
Yeah. Here's a new history. Here's a different new history. Here's another new history that reverts back to the other new history. That's been Toriyama this last year.
So it's funny. But I think also other news is that really stands out to me is Dragon Ball Minus.
Yeah, it was kind of far down on the list. It would have made maybe a top 15, or maybe not even that, maybe a top 20. Well, there were so many stories about it, but the one in particular that probably would have cracked the top 20 was the actual release date and real first look at the story, that kind of stuff. But Julian, Dragon Ball Minus. I know we've talked about Jocko so much. I really encourage people to check out our 30th anniversary magazine that we did for Dragon Ball. I repurposed my Jocko review in the magazine, but Julian, you also had a one page. We just called it One Last Look. Just another take on what Jocko means as a story and in relation to Dragon Ball. And so I encourage people to check that out, but talk it out for me a little bit. Dragon Ball Minus, its significance here.
Yes, so it's the story of Bardock and who he was as a person and the circumstances behind Goku's being sent to Earth, which might be a little different from what you assume about.
A little bit.
So it's been the root of many heated arguments already. And I think for what it is, it's not bad, but it doesn't have the room to expand on things, so things just sort of happen instead of feeling important.
Yeah, things happen instead of progressing to happen. You and I talked about it. Lance has been on the show talking about Bardock, and we talked about Minus a little bit there, although we tried to avoid too many spoilers and that kind of stuff. And Lance also wrote a great article about Bardock you can check out in the magazine, so please do check that out for this very nice holistic take review thing, whatever you want to call it, on Bardock. But yeah, Dragon Ball Minus, just we'll get to predictions. We were kind of expecting something else, but I think its actual contents threw us for a little bit of a loop there.
Yeah, but I mean, just think about that. It's 2014 and you've got Toriyama writing something by his own hand that is not only new, but branded as Dragon Ball. Not just incidentally Dragon Ball, but drawing Bardock and Goku and Frieza.
Yeah. Something that I thought was kind of interesting to pop up, this maybe would have hit a top 10, believe it or not, was actually Dragon Ball RPG Boyhood Arc coming to Android and iOS, and nothing really came of this. I think after little experiments like Tap Battle to see, an RPG is coming, and then for it to just not really be anything of any significance that anyone really talked about. I mean, part of that was the fact that it didn't get localized. We do have the upcoming, Dokkan Battle that's supposed to be localized worldwide, and we're still not seeing any fruits of that game's production. But it's kind of crazy that I think people are looking for that Dragon Ball mobile experience in the worldwide market, and they're just kind of not delivering.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, some of these things might be time intensive. I mean, if you have an RPG, there's a lot of text.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so many assets from that game are reused from other places.
They really are, yeah.
Surely they could spare the expense to do something else with the money they're not spending on other parts of it.
Yeah, just as I'm doing out the numbers here, I think that would have cracked the top 10 stories. Clearly, there's an interest in this, and I think they're just leaving money on the table there. I mean, the mobile market is mature at this point. There's definitely money to be made. I think we can't move on from 2014 without talking about Broly, believe it or not, and all the Julian. I get a visual of Julian just sulking his head down here. Broly is the gift that keeps on giving, is he not?
His power is maximum.
I mean, we've got transformations up to Legendary Super Saiyan 3, and now we've got Golden Ozaru, Great Ape Broly. Do we have like combination Super Saiyan 4 / Great Ape Broly? I don't even really know what it is at this point, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that Dragon Ball Heroes is really good at, it's taking every last fan crack kind of transformation with random characters and making it come true.
I am honestly surprised we have not seen Zykor show up in Heroes yet.
Just because it seems like sometimes fan fiction in the way that things work. But
at least a cameo. I'm actually honestly surprised we haven't seen the little hideaway panel, but I guess he doesn't want to risk it. It's maybe too much of that last confirmation about who he is.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, just Dragon Ball Heroes. I mean, that's the larger story, not Broly. Broly is not the story. Dragon Ball Heroes is. It's continued success into 4 years here, and we're going to be hitting a 5th year this next year.
That's right.
We're on the 4th major update series with the God Mission coming soon. It's a surprise success. We've been saying it for a couple of years now. We're continually surprised by it. I think Bandai Namco is equally continuously surprised by it. They're like, people will keep buying?
Yeah, have they had a Dragon Ball Cardass series this successful since the original?
No, because they keep rebooting it every couple of years. Well, they kept rebooting it every couple of years. I think we've talked about this. They had the Bakuretsu Impact. What were some of the other names that they had for things back then? I'm totally blanking on them.
I think there was a double Bakuretsu Impact.
Yeah.
Dragon Battlers?
Dragon Battlers, right. That was the predecessor. That's where we started getting the new Super Saiyan 3. We actually got Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Broly in Dragon Battlers leading up to Raging Blast, and then things transitioned into Dragon Ball Heroes on the card front. But yeah, Dragon Battlers kind of set the stage. That's where they were testing out the new transformations, and then they said, well, let's just do it. And it worked out for them. So, Julian, those were some of the biggest stories of the year, some of what we thought were some of the most significant. I do want to kind of run down what some of the top content pages on Kanzenshuu were. I think that gives a good glimpse into what people are looking at and interested in. Probably no surprise, our main translations page is the #1 page on the site.
Yes.
No surprise there. The Animation Styles Guide, always popular. That's our #2 most popular page on the site. And, things trickle down into the individual animators from there. Something that I'm both surprised and not surprised about and really proud of is that our Dragon Ball GT ending analysis in the little tidbits section is the 3rd most popular page on Kanzenshuu in 2014.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is it again?
I don't remember. It's a long time ago. That's a page that existed on DaizenShuu-EX. We did a podcast episode about it. I think when the podcast was still in double digits, so that can tell you how long ago it was. It was like episode 99 or I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my butt. I don't remember. But that page, I mean, the question is always, what happens to Goku? Sometimes, where did Goku go at the end of GT? All those questions. I mean, we just got the SEO wrapped up on that shiz right there. It's always well performing. And then things trickle down. We've got the intended endings guide that's always popular. That's always getting linked across the internet far and wide. Glad that Heath and Jake really put the effort into that. And then you got episode guide stuff and the podcast in there as well. Those are some of the most popular pages on the site. So thank you for checking out all that content. It gives us a good glimpse at what we should be working at in terms of what you're interested in. And generally, we just ignore that and do what we want anyway. But it tends to line up with what you want at the same time. So kind of happy about that.
Yep.
Alrighty, dude. You ready to check out last year's predictions?
Oh, yes. So let's take a look.
All right. I think last year it was just you and I that contributed predictions. So we'll reverse each other's stuff here and we'll comment on them. And then this year we do have new predictions from you, from myself, from Heath. Jake gave us nothing. And then Mary gave me a couple things that I didn't write down, but I'll just note when we start talking about them. So then to review last year's predictions, Julian, you said we will get the Buu Arc of Kai, and contrary to what it was intended to be, it will be on TV. It will take over Toriko's time slot April-ish, and it will reunite the Dream 9 block with One Piece and Dragon Ball. And then you said that you hope they would capitalize on it so that it's something people can buy rather than just being, yep, this is Dragon Ball again. You nailed most of that, except for that last part.
Yeah, still nothing of note except for maybe Dragon Ball Heroes, but that's not branded with Kai.
No, in fact, they took the Kai branding off of everything.
Yes, it's back to Z for more stuff.
So you kind of nailed it there. I mean, that's what everything was pointing to. It was a very safe prediction to make, but the fact that you nailed so much of it, pretty good. You said Jaco will be released in tankobon and digitally as the first phase in the 30th anniversary project for Dragon Ball. In terms of Jaco, there's going to be new material in it, but it might amount to just some illustrations or an interview rather than anything earth-shattering. You said there may be a colorized version released digitally. So you're kind of half and half on this one. That is what we got. And in terms of the 30th anniversary, I feel like they really didn't capitalize on it that much.
No, but I would see it as the opening salvo in the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a military metaphor in there somewhere, but I don't know. But of course, I completely never got minus. So that was something.
Okay.
I didn't expect.
That's our response. That was a thing. Julian, you said we'll see something else for the 30th anniversary. You would like to say there would be a new movie announced, but we won't be that lucky.
I guess we were lucky. I don't know if I'd like to say that necessarily, but well, we'll get lots of mileage out of it, I'm sure.
We will. You said that, I think you're talking to Shueisha in particular here, they're going to re-release more stuff like the film anime comics. That was a curious thing this year. We got re-releases of what? Movie 8 and movie 12.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't put out more. They put a few more out in the remix line, but that's remix. It's available at convenience stores. It's cheap. You know, while you have people's attention, maybe you want to put out something that's a little bit more premium.
Didn't they do a cheaper reprint of the Battle of Gods film anime comic too? I mean, I guess that counts. That's
they did.
Was that remix though?
I think that was remix. They also did movie 9 and a couple of others.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you're right. There were a couple others. They did like 3 in a row of double feature sort of things, but they didn't do the whole shebang of everything.
No, they just did reprints of a few of them, and the only difference was the covers. So
right. Anyway, you said Funimation will announce Battle of Gods for the North American market. Fox will be involved, but it's really Funimation, and they're going to try for at least a limited theatrical release. Well, it was finally time for Battle of Gods, and yeah, you got the theatrical thing dead on there. They did do a very limited release. It was 4 days. A couple other theaters did it a little later on, or another day or two here and there, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Good job.
I didn't expect that they would get the extended version. Well, we didn't know there would be an extended version.
No, at the beginning of the year, we didn't yet, right?
Yeah.
But even then, when we knew it existed, none of us expected that they would get it. I think we all thought they would put it out as is, and if they could, they would get the extended later on and do a re-release. But the fact that we got it right from the start is almost the antithesis of Dragon Ball merchandising, where it's sell us the same thing multiple times instead of selling us the best thing from the get-go.
Yes.
Yeah, one last thing, going back to Shueisha here, they're probably going to release some more of the full color comics tied in with the 30th anniversary. They probably won't see the earlier arcs of the series, just digital only. So we did get to the end of the series.
Yes, we got to the end of Boo. When I didn't expect that there would be so much more Toriyama Q&A stuff in there.
Yeah. And Julian, I think the reason this was a prediction was there was a break. We got the science stuff, and then we get the Frieza stuff, and then it kind of stopped for a while, right?
Yeah, so we didn't know what would happen after that, but I kind of suspected they would continue, at least for the Z era stuff.
And that's what we got. They went to the end of Boo, and then the first part of the series is still digital only in terms of color, right?
Yeah, so there's an open question about what's going to happen with that. They did mention when they first started putting stuff out that for the time being, the earlier arcs would be digital only. Now, some of the earlier chapters have been colorized in that state for a long time. Like, they darted the idea of this project for these little sort of moving comic type clips that they had as part of the Jumpland project way back when I was in college. And then they eventually tried a little bit of a thing with just putting up certain early full color chapters on the internet for free. And then that petered out, I think, into the second volume or somewhere like that.
Yeah, it was pretty early. And then they just hung out, probably silently working away on them.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with them. I'll maybe discuss a few things in my predictions a bit later. But
all right, we'll get to that. All right, turn the tables. What did I have last year?
Okay, Mike. First up, you said Viz will stick with it through the Frieza arc in the Wall Street Journal.
I know. I still read it that way every time I see it.
Yes, I don't know why Viz goes with that abbreviation, but they do. Maybe they assume that their demographics don't overlap.
Right, maybe.
They're wrong. The physical release won't get that far, though. Well,
That's half and
You were
half.
half right.
Yeah.
Yes, the physical release of the Frieza arc for full color in English, we don't know.
No,
But
never
also,
came.
it didn't get a digital release either.
No, they stuck with it to the end of the Saiyan arc, and that was it. We kind of expected, all right, maybe they'll pick up print only from there on out, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, so send your complaints to Viz, not us, please.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Next up, you said you still think we're going to get an updated Ultimate Mission on 3DS, the entire rest of Galaxy Mission, and now Jaokuryu Mission. So lots new to cover, sorry.
You know, I kept harping on this. I think they're going to put out like a DLC or a patch to do it, but Ultimate Mission did well enough that they just went full-on sequel, Ultimate Mission 2.
Yeah.
And I think that made total sense.
So that's what we got, and you were right. You said it was a safe prediction last year, which was 2013, but
Right.
2014 would be the year we saw a sparking HD collection. Just need Neo and Meteor. Leave off the first game. Was there one? I don't think there was.
No, there wasn't. There was not. We did not get an HD collection. And now we're at the point where we've transitioned into the new next generation of consoles with the PS4 and the Xbox One. And yeah, there are some HD collections going there. I know Square Enix is porting their already made HD collection of Final Fantasy X and X-2 to PS4, even though it's already out on PS3 and Vita. I think that may be the only one where they're taking an existing HD collection and then going up. And then we've had things like more recent games from just the previous generation, like The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5 going from 360 and PS3 to Xbox One and PS4. But this is something from the PS2 generation. Now that we have these new consoles and that they're doing well, although not necessarily as well in Japan as they are internationally, but then internationally stuff does better, as seen by Budokai HD Collection not even coming out in Japan. All this to say, is Sparking HD Collection still a possibility? And if so, on which platform set or sets would they do a split-gen, cross-gen thing? I don't know anymore. I think I'm going to toss this out the window. I think that ship has sailed. Then again, I thought the Kai ship had sailed. Yeah, I can't say these words in a row. Anyway, I was wrong. Moving on.
Okay. Carrying on, you said that Funimation will just carry on with their current Blu-ray release, not going to be canceled. They'll just stick with it, nothing else exciting. Well, you were right.
Yeah, I was right in terms of that. I mean, Battle of Gods is a little bit separate from that, but in terms of just standard re-releases and releases, whatever you want to call them, yep, that's what it was.
So, for better or worse, what happened? You said, I think this may be something you borrowed from your 2013 predictions, and you
Yes.
just stuck a tag on so you could keep it for 2014.
I did.
You said, we are definitely, absolutely, finally going to hear about the Buu arc of Kai. If they don't do it in 2013, is it going to matter anymore? Also the same for 2014.
Yeah,
And
finally
they did something. It took so long, but finally they made it. Does it matter? I don't know.
The thing here was that we just knew they were working on it for so long, and it was, what are you guys doing with this? It's just sitting there.
So finally it came out, and you don't have to do that this year.
No, I'm done with that one. Well, then we have Funimation and the Buu arc. That's
Right.
the next part of that.
But anyway, moving on. You said Funimation will announce they have Battle of Gods, but it will be pretty late in the year. Dragon Ball is the type of franchise where it's super mainstream and super casual. Thousands upon thousands of fans that they can sell to.
It actually came earlier than I thought it would. I think it was going to be way later in the year, but it was spring that we heard about Funimation having Battle of Gods, and they're going to do that theatrical run for it. Of course, that theatrical run didn't happen until August. Maybe that's what I was thinking about in terms of when it would actually happen. The announcement came earlier, though, so that was good. And then in terms of the sales figures, the most recent episode of Ancast over on Anime News Network, they had Adam and Justin from Funimation on the show. And as expected, Battle of Gods was far and away the biggest seller for Funimation, blowing everything else out of the water, not even close. Like we've been saying, Dragon Ball is the thing that brings out the anime fans, the casual anime fans, and the people who watch Dragon Ball on TV as a show that was on TV that they liked. And Battle of Gods was the newest part of that. And yep, everyone came out.
Indeed they did. Moving on to more about Battle of Gods, you also predicted there would be more riots over Beerus's name.
Yep.
Did that pan out?
It did. I think it's finally starting to cool down a little bit. I think people have finally come to terms with the fact that Bills is nothing. It is nothing. It is literally nothing.
Right. Well, the super casual fans have only been exposed to Beerus, basically.
Yeah, right. The thing that always blows my mind about this is that you have the hardcore newish people insisting upon a spelling from a fan sub and rejecting the Funimation English name for the character. Like, what century are we living in here?
Yes, 16-year-old Mike strikes again. I don't know. In a way, it kind of reminds us of how we might have been when we were younger.
Absolutely. It's a good
but
reminder.
Being detached from it.
All right, Julian, I had crazy stuff. This is my crazy stuff here.
So your next prediction, breaking the streak of semi-accurate things, we are going to get a Dragon Ball Heroes OVA movie special. It will be about Gotenks and Beat. Okay.
I guess we got a special thing from Toyotaro.
Yeah, was that?
That might have been the previous year.
I think that was in 2013.
Maybe that's why I said it, yeah.
You thought it was going to be made into animation. Yeah. Oh, well, yes. And next up, you said you joked about it, but you think Bardock will be revealed as the original Super Saiyan God. Well, luckily, no. But he did get some FaceTime there.
Yeah, he did. I mean, everything that was happening at that point was really leading up to it. It sounds dumb now, but if you go back to all the stuff that was happening at the time, it really seemed like we were heading in that direction, but it didn't. And Julian, I had one more. I was good on this one.
Yes. So you return to a positive average here with Jacko home release will come out and will have further new material tying in with Dragon Ball even more. Yes,
there we go. Sure did. All right. I'd say we did okay with our predictions from this last year.
Yeah, I think they were by and large accurate.
2014 was this weird transition year where we had 2013 with Battle of Gods and 2014 then toward the end here announcing new stuff for 2015. So we had stuff coming out that was a carryover from 2013 and now promoting 2015. So it was an interesting year to be sure. I know that's a dumb word to keep using, interesting, but that's truly what it was. So Julian, you've added your new predictions to the list here. Great. Yes. The magic of Google Docs here. All right, since we've been flipping back and forth, why don't you give me your predictions here?
All right. So doing my predictions first, there will be a flood of ancillary materials, interviews, books, newspaper articles, etc. to come out alongside the new movie. I will once again nearly drown in my pile of unfinished translations, but perhaps the pile won't be quite as deep this time.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk to you about this real quick. I feel like stuff is slow compared to what it was with Battle of Gods already at this point.
Maybe, but I think that's just the perception because we're still getting like plot type updates. Remember the real huge deluge of stuff. Mm-hmm. I want to say the Toriyama interview and everything else in the May 2013 issue of V-Jump, which came out in March.
Yeah.
And for some reason, things leaked online like a couple weeks before it came out, which made it feel earlier, but that was when things just really started coming out one after the other.
Yeah. All right, so maybe we got a little slow time here. Get rest.
So next up, Shueisha capitalizes on the new movie to put out the rest of the full-color comics in print as well as digitally. As these chapters have existed in color the longest, the earliest dating back to the Jumpland days of, when I was in college, there may be further changes to bring them in line with later releases that then propagate back to the digital release in unannounced maintenance updates. Now, I say this because, for example, the color scheme of Kaio, which was different early on in the digital release, then changed for full-color comics, and then changed to the full-color comics in basically an unmarked update on iBooks and other sources. So maybe there will be similar updates if there's a print release. I really have no idea, though.
I'm looking forward to what you have to say next year.
So next, Funimation finally announces Dragon Ball Kai the final chapters and starts the release cycle with the show airing on Cartoon Network's revived Toonami block in support. Fans seeking wares online have heated arguments about whose episode count for the Buu arc is correct, never realizing that they're both right, not to mention deserving of contempt. The company would want to get Revival of F out the door this year too, but a combination of licensing and practical issues will conspire to keep it from being released, if not announced, in North America until 2016.
I got two things in here. Yeah, I think we need to reconfirm for people that there are two separate versions of Dragon Ball Kai that have been produced. The Japanese version that aired first was actually a further cut down version of what Toei was producing for the international market. And my understanding is that at some point they kind of start lining back up again, but for a while the episode count is drastically different.
I don't know. It's funny / painful. Especially for Heath, who has to catalog all this stuff.
Right. And so Kai is airing on Toonami right now, and you think when they're ready, they're just going to roll into the Buu arc?
Maybe, although I think the schedule that they have it on right now, it'll take a while.
Yeah, it will. So
maybe they'll skip ahead.
I don't know. I mean, this is kind of jumping over to my predictions, but since we're talking about it, I think they'll just do the home video release first, and when they get to it on TV, they get to it. You were also talking about the new movie here. You think that things will keep it at bay until 2016?
Maybe. I mean, I think they want to get it out as soon as possible, strike while the iron is hot, but who knows?
Gotcha. All right, moving on.
This is a bit of an out there prediction, but it surprises everyone by releasing the Kanzenshuu with a new translation, but the high price per volume and the glut of other releases. Individual volumes, Viz Big 3-in-1 full color, so confuses fans that the books don't sell and it's canceled. They decide to try their luck with the rest of the full color volumes instead, but by then it's 2016.
You are a funny, funny man. Yeah, that's not happening, man. Come on.
Okay. All right, fine.
All right, keep going with the crazy.
Toei Animation shocks everyone by premiering a Dragon Ball Heroes TV show in the Kai time slot on Fuji TV, coinciding with God Mission 1 of the arcade release. The story will be yet another alternate universe, completely independent of Victory Mission and with live-action segments featuring battle navigators, Tsubasa and Momo giving tips on the actual game.
As crazy as this is also entirely likely.
Who knows? We'll see. I don't know. I think the live-action segments thing would be amusing. It reminds me of the old educational cartoons.
Yeah.
Like US TV in the 90s. Like, what was it? Back to the Future cartoon. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, I sure do.
Next up, Akira Toriyama gets everyone's hopes up by teasing a new project, which turns out to be working out the color scheme of a room in his house that he's painting. That or character designs for a surprise sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Julian, do you know there's actually 2 sequels to Chrono Trigger?
I heard, but I don't think Toriyama was involved with either of them.
No, he was not. No. One was a Satellaview only thing on the Super Famicom. I think ideas and music from it transferred over to Chrono Cross, which was on PS1. Anyway, I'm just being pedantic with you. What is your final prediction for the next year?
Psycho Jump is unceremoniously brought down to a quarterly release schedule with 0 changes to the amount or quality of content each month. Each issue. The last bit of Nao Oishi's spine art for the year is once again lost to the ether and never reprinted in the Dragon Ball SD volume.
We will come back to this one shortly. Let me just leave that one on the table for me to get to. So, my predictions for next year. No more full color from Viz. Absolutely nothing this year. ... Except something preview-ish in Digital Weekly Shonen Jump. Maybe just some Dragon Ball SD. And further maybe those 4 original quarterly chapters, which right now seem lost to time. I mean, I feel like if they start the regular Dragon Ball SD, it's a fully serialized thing, but if they just do the quarterly stuff, they can stick it in whenever they need filler material, like when Oda's in the hospital again. I mean, taking his 2 week sabbaticals, they have time and space to fill, even though they're trying to put in some other stuff into the mix. But I think Dragon Ball SD is good filler material. And those 4 quarterly chapters, we've never seen reprinted since the original 4, as you predicting it's going back to quarterly Saikyo Jump.
Although, as long as we're on the subject of weekly Shonen Jump in English,
yes,
I do think that they do have a source of material that they can draw upon for their filler, if they need filler, which would be the Shonen Jump Plus app, which has a lot of things that are serialized for free and also contains a good number of one-shots.
Yeah, definitely.
They could just stick in there if somebody wants to translate them. There's a few really good ones amongst some stuff that I can see why it's not in the regular magazine. But yeah. Anyway, that's not directly related to Dragon Ball, so...
Sure, but it ties in. Cool. I think, as opposed to you, I think Funimation is able to announce revival of F before the end of the calendar year this time, but it will be right at the end of the year. I think Fox is going to step back a little bit and realize that Battle of Gods did pretty well and just let Funimation be Funimation. Julian, I didn't have this listed here, but I think we both need to make predictions. What do you think Funimation's going to call the movie? You think it's going to be super basic? I could see them doing something just Return of Frieza.
That could be the return of the revenge of Kula's little brother. I don't know.
I know. We've had returns and revenge already with Kula, so I feel like they maybe they don't even remember that they did that. So, but I think Frieza's Revenge is a great title, except for the fact that we've already had Kula's Revenge, or Revenge of Cooler. I don't remember how it was, but so do you have any thoughts? Will they name Frieza literally, or will they keep the F? I think it's better to brand it with Frieza.
Maybe Frieza, although one thing I'm curious about is whether they would be able to keep by maximum the hormone. Whether there might be some complicated licensing things that's holding that back. I mean, we already had one thing with Flow where either the band's management or the band themselves had English versions that they dubbed themselves. Songs.
In case you guys didn't realize, haven't seen it, even in the Japanese language track on both the theatrical and the extended cut, it's the English version of Flow's songs, which is very
in Funimation release.
Yeah, and the Funimation release very much takes you out of the experience. So
yes, well, let's if you notice that it's not in Japanese.
Well, that's true.
A lot of people didn't notice because the pronunciation is just so bad.
All right, so I'm going to start going into crazy stuff here. I think we're going to see Super Saiyan God Vegeta this year. I don't know how, where, why, but I think we're going to see him this year because why not?
More importantly, what color will his hair be?
That's true. I don't know. I'll say blue.
Okay.
I think Xenoverse will be a semi-revival for the series on consoles. It's going to have better sales initially than some of the most recent stuff. And this is what Mary's on board with as well. We were talking about this morning. And then we were also thinking, is this just wishful thinking on our part? Because yes, while we're interested in really good gameplay, and that's one of the things that's kept Mary away from the games for so long at this point, we're also interested in good storytelling. And I think we have the potential here. We really liked all the stuff that Dragon Ball Online was bringing to the table in that respect. And Xenoverse is pulling in some of that stuff kind of well. So I hope that transfers over. I hope that's what Bandai Namco is hoping for, which is maybe if we give it some time and actually put some effort into something beyond just fighting, maybe people will like it. So we'll see. And sticking with game stuff, I think we'll see a new game announced by the end of the year. It's not going to be called Xenoverse, but it will clearly carry on its torch. So I don't know if it'll be XVI. I don't know what it would be, but yes, we will see what is clearly a sequel to Xenoverse in everything but name. Then going back to Dragon Ball Heroes stuff, like you were talking about, Julian, I think the God Mission stuff in Heroes is going to adhere more closely to Dragon Ball Online than Xenoverse is / will. Like, for example, we've seen the Bardock, is Time Breaker? Is that what it's called? With he's got the mask thing.
That's what I've seen him called, but I don't actually know what he's called in Korean.
Gotcha. Right. So we've seen him already teased. We haven't seen him announced that way for Xenoverse. I'm really curious if they'll bring him in there. But I think Heroes is going to stick with that stuff. Maybe even the timeline from Dragon Ball Online more so than Xenoverse will, because Xenoverse has already changed things up with age 850 versus age 1000, that kind of stuff. We have some missing characters. Fu, I believe, is the child of Toa and Mira. Is that the correct understanding there from the future, something like that? And people have been wondering.
I'm wondering if it's supposed to be Fu or Fu. I don't know. I haven't seen it in the original text. So
gotcha.
Like Fu is in the future, but anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen things to that effect. I'm not that knowledgeable about Dragon Ball Online.
Right. We're missing the right people for that discussion there. But anyways, Xenoverse is missing that kind of stuff. We did just this week from leaks of V-Jump, which we'll be getting to ourselves shortly when we can corroborate the Japanese. It looks like we're seeing who Demigra is. They did not name him. I don't think so. But we did actually get a full character reveal of who that character will be in Dragon Ball Xenoverse, as opposed to the Weekly Jump preview, which was just a chin.
Right.
We did get this month's V-Jump. This week's V-Jump will have the full character design sketch for the character. I don't know why I said character like 3 times in the same sentence. Anyway, so will Demigra be this translation sort of Fu or Few? Maybe not, maybe entirely separate, but I think Dragon Ball Heroes, they want as many characters as they can get, so maybe they'll pull in even more stuff there. Sticking with video games, I think this is probably pretty safe. I think Ultimate Mission 3 is going to be announced this year, and it's going to cover a good ways into the God Mission material from Heroes. And then to wrap things up, I didn't really talk about Funimation a lot here, but to wrap things up, Psycho Jump will end with a zero fanfare. I think there will be a collection of miscellaneous miscellaneous Naho Oishi stuff. And again, maybe that's wishful thinking as opposed to what will actually happen. But we have had some Oishi stuff that, other than its first publication, we haven't seen. They've been okay with putting some of that stuff in the collected editions of SD123, but those are my predictions. I do have predictions from Heath. Let me read these out real quick. Heath says the horrible experiment known as Dragon Ball Kai will finally end, and there is much rejoicing. Toei announces an HD remastering of the series with releases starting in 2016. I think he's got a little bit of wishful thinking there. Heath also says, following the completion of the Majin Buu arc of Kai in Japan, Funimation finally begins releasing it in North America. That's probably going to be true. Heath says Xenoverse is so successful that a sequel is announced for 2016. I think most of us are on board for that idea there. Shueisha announces plans to release full color comics of the beginning of the series in physical print format, finally forcing Heath to buy them all. Viz releases more print editions of the full color comics in their nice large format. Oh, all right. So Heath is against us here. Dragon Ball Heroes will continue to be successful and does something amazingly awesome for its 5th anniversary, although he does not actually say what that might be. So thank you for being very safe in your predictions. Heath says Shueisha announces / releases some sort of new guidebook in addition to the standard one that will come out for Revival of F. Yeah, there was a guidebook. Then there's also the theatrical program / guidebook for Battle of Gods. So we have that stuff to look forward to. And Heath has a couple last things. What will not happen? No new movie will be announced in 2015. I think it's a safe bet at this point that we're on a every 2 years cycle, so nothing will be announced until halfway through 2016. Heath also says what will not happen. No screenings of Revival of F in the States, and only other international screenings will have been announced by the close of the year. And to wrap it up, to be a Debbie Downer, no more Dragon Boxes from Funimation.
I actually do have one more prediction of my own, if I could put it in here.
Sure, making it really difficult for me to collect them all 365 days from now. That's all right.
So Dragon Ball Discross, the little token-based thing that we still haven't covered, will be a surprise, gigantic smash hit, and we'll be forced to eventually cover it along with everything else.
I hope not.
But at least at the beginning, apparently there were some machines that were sold out alongside the video game.
Oh, yeah? Huh.
Yeah, the gimmick of the video game is that it's free to play, but you have to buy these tokens, which remind me of the yokai medals from Yokai Watch.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of Yokai Watch, you should learn about it because it's the latest thing in Japan and it's bigger than Pokemon. So,
yeah, I think we're actually getting it pretty soon.
So if you haven't heard of it, then you will be hearing about it soon. But anyway, yeah, so basically if you do really well, you get perhaps a new token from the game or even a rare thing, but the thing is that it makes you buy stuff in order to play it. So yeah.
It's the Japanese way. Didn't they cut down on that? Wasn't there a law passed about chance-based stuff?
I'm not sure. Maybe this because it's not exactly chance, but it's funny because the game unit is actually like built into a wall of gashapon things.
Well, last night on Twitter, put the ask out for your own predictions, and I was smart this year. I said one tweet, so I don't have to read 6 in a row from Jacob. We did get the one obligatory animation one from Jacob. We'll get to that. I'm not going to read them all. Some of them are joke posts. Maybe I'll read a couple of those here and there. But there's a lot of good stuff here as well. Caleb says, another release from Funimation. Don't really have to be psychic for that one. I think that's a fair thing. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. I think our buddy Josh Kendamu dug up a forum response or a tweet somewhere from someone at Funimation saying they're looking at doing a Blu-ray release of the movies this year. That's the interesting thing. When they did the double features, they did the steelbooks, they were DVD and Blu-ray, and then when they did a collected box set release of those, they did them DVD only. So there is still an open market for a Blu-ray re-release of the movies. Maybe they do a new transfer like they've been doing with the Z TV series for the movies this year. I guess I'll toss that on my predictions list since it seems to be mostly confirmed, and that gives me a better average. Zero Flame, unrealistic, Dragon Box reprint. Realistic, releasing the DBZ Blu-rays like last year, but in head packaging like The Simpsons.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
what I'm talking about. Have you seen those, Julian?
I have not.
So they don't fit nicely on your shelf. They're these extravagant packaging things, like Homer's head that holds the Blu-rays and stuff. It's a pain in the butt. Let's see. Blake says, a new DBZ game for 3DS in North America. We got so many great Game Boy Advance ones, a few great DS ones, but little to no 3DS. I hope it's another RPG. Yeah, I mean, that was back in the era on GBA when Atari was able to shovel the license out to farmhouses like Webfoot to create North American original games. We haven't had that since those days. And in terms of the portable market in Japan, we've just been getting Heroes because it's a proven easy success. So we need something else here. Jacob, Fukatsu no F will have over 70 key animators, but only 6 animation supervisors. Is that a bad average? I don't know.
I don't No.
This isn't my shtick. You got to talk to Heath. I don't know what you're talking about. See, Jay says, no revival of F North American screenings this year, but first confirmation of localization by year's end. Get this one out faster, guys. Willie says, my prediction is that Mike somehow ends up buying yet another version of DBZ Movie 1. He needs to own every copy in existence. That is likely. I have obtained at least one new version of the movie every year for probably the last decade. Let's not break the streak now. Let's see. Navi's Pimp says, Viz releases the rest of the full color manga, but screws up and prints it in black and white. Still sent it.
Yep. Par for the course.
Let's see. Shin Gaijin says, unfortunately, I think the end of Dragon Ball Kai will be rushed and a total mess. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, does that mean they just get to a point where, crap, we got to wrap this up in 1 or 2 episodes and just cram it all together? B says, the digital color versions of volumes 1 through 16 will get physical releases in Japan. North America weeps and uses the 3-in-1s as tissue.
Well, they're about as wide as tissue.
Alex says, not a huge prediction, but 3D screenings of Revival of F will be exclusive to Japan. Yeah, probably.
Well, I suppose. I don't know how they're going to work out the distribution of that stuff anyway, so.
Right. Someone named Julian did a couple tweets. I'm going to ignore these.
Okay.
Jose says, another re-release of DBZ on Blu-ray, but this time in 4x3. I mean, there are those of us out there that are like, This is not the product I wanted. I'm not buying this. If you give me the product I wanted, I will buy it. And they continue to tell us that they gave us that with the levels, and for whatever reason, that didn't work. Well, that just goes back to that same conversation where, well, yeah, when you announce a new product 2 months after you just finished a last product, why would anyone trust you for anything ever?
Yes. Well, who's going to buy it if they already have it, right? Only the collectors.
Anthony says more trunks. Okay.
Yeah, I need to buy a few more pairs myself.
Kyle says Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters from Funimation, home release, and TV broadcasts. I think that's probably what we're looking at. Although the question there is, since they've already started Kai, like we were talking about, Julian, will they wait until they get to Boo and air it in sequence, or will they jump somewhere along the way? That's what I've got. This has been the first podcast in a while. I'm not used to recording in the morning, so my voice is like, what are you doing? And Julian, it's 12:30 in the morning for you, or night, I guess. So let's wrap it up, dude.
All right. Well, it was good getting to do a podcast again, and I hope all of you listening are pleased to hear us as well.
We are happy to be here. Again, can't guarantee schedules, that kind of stuff. We're finally off the holiday cycle, so maybe we can get back into a groove again. But Julian, your time zone and my time zone, this 1 extra hour just makes things not as easy as it usually is, but hopefully I can jump back on with Heath and Jake at some point along the way too. You want to talk real quick about anything you got in the hopper?
Yes, well, I'm working on preparing some stuff for Maximum the Hormone and F. Get that out of the way before the movie comes out. And there's odds and ends here and there. I'm still trying to find a cheaper copy of the 1997 number 1 issue of Wired Japan, which has an interview with Toriyama with some interesting content, but, $100, that's a lot.
Well, that's an important number. I hate tossing this stuff out there, but we've made a big jump in how Kanzenshuu is running in anticipation of what Heath has been slaving back over again. Hopefully you've been seeing some of the previews he's been talking about on Twitter and on the forum. And that's the wiki. He's guaranteeing 2015 this year. I know we said this exactly last year. But so at this point, again, I hate to say it, we're basically running about $100 to $150 behind costs every month right now. So any stuff that you guys toss our way is so incredibly appreciated. I recognize, acknowledge, and apologize for being so far behind on updating the donation list on the website. Part of that is stuff it's been helpful, but it hasn't covered things lately. So I do want to mention it here. I don't want to mention it again for a while, but I think it's important to toss that out there that Kanzenshuu is not our jobs. This is not what we do for a living. It's what we do on the side because we love Dragon Ball so much and we love providing what we can provide. But the monetary contribution, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, it's a living wage at this point that Kanzenshuu costs. So anything that anyone can do to help out. There are things we could do. I'm really hesitant to run things like a Kickstarter or a Patreon, even a Patreon at this point, because we can't guarantee regular content because this is not our job. And also because Dragon Ball is not an intellectual property that we own. So we always try to avoid doing any kind of commitment stuff on that level. So just let that information be known right now. And whatever you can do to help, we so incredibly appreciate from the bottom of our hearts.
Indeed.
I just mentioned what Heath is working on, wiki stuff, and every once in a while he updates Dragon Ball Kai, I guess, on the website somewhere. I'm keeping up on news. Julian, I was actually diving back into that Victory Mission section because I guess we haven't mentioned, but Victory Mission moved over as bonus unlockable content over in the Weekly Jump Plus app. So we have wonderful, clean digital copies of everything. So I can stop scanning the V-Jump issues.
Well, there's some of the bonus stuff that has up there.
That's true. There's some of the bonus stuff. But we do, now that we have kind of this closed end portion to the series, I think that's a good time to go back and just totally wrap up that whole session that we've been promising for a year at this point.
Well, we thought it was going to be soon, and then we got dumped on with another huge news thing a while back.
So yeah, basically we're working on stuff. There's cool stuff coming. What year is this? 2015. I think it's going to be an exciting year. I'm looking forward to it. So that's Julian over there. My name is Mike. We got Heath. We got Jake off in the ether somewhere, plugging away at things. For all of them, for all the folks that join us, all our friends and family here at Kanzenshuu, we appreciate your patronage, and we look forward to having you listen to us again, reading our words, all that stuff. I'm running out of things to say. Julian, wrap it up.
Yes, thank you for listening to this new 2015 edition of Kanzenshuu, the podcast. We're not going anywhere, and we hope to be giving you a lot more to listen to this year. So stay with us. See you around. Well, actually, we won't see you, but please keep downloading. Thank you.
欲しくはないとでもいつかこの腕を離れてゆくお前
Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Oh no. Keep recording. Hang up and call back.
Okay. I will go to recording it. Hang up.